Hi everyone, welcome to the fourth episode of A Very Queer Book Club. Today there's been a slight change of plans, and instead of an educator, we're sitting down with a group of 4 young readers who just read Love Creekwood, and we're going to have a conversation about why they love the book, why it's so important, and why representation is so important to them. If you've not purchased your copy of Love Creekwood yet, you can do that by following the link in the description below and purchasing it from Karis Books and More in Atlanta. And be aware that this conversation will have spoilers for Love Creekwood and the entire Simonverse, so just be aware of that. And also, if you stick around at the very end, I will give you a sneak peek of the book we're going to be talking about for August. I'm going to make the announcement on Monday, but I'm going to give you a little bit of a hint at the very end of this video. So if you're interested in that, be sure to check that out. And without any further ado, please enjoy this conversation about Love Creekwood. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm super excited to be sitting down to chat with you about Love Creekwood. The first thing we could do, if we could go around and you could tell me your names, your pronouns, and where you're coming to us from.
I'm Maya. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm from Benicia, California.
Hi, my name's Dalton. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm living in Columbus, Georgia.
Hello, I'm also Maya, she, her pronouns from Covington, Georgia.
Hi, I'm Molly. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm from Atlanta, Georgia.
Amazing. So first thing I want to know is just your first thoughts on the book. Your first initial reactions when you finished reading it.
I loved the book. It was the first book that I've read in the Simonverse and definitely made me want to read more. And I just loved the writing style. I loved reading it. It was just such a nice, easy flow of conversation to read since it was all emails. So I definitely left the book ready to read more books and jump backwards in time.
I love it.
When I finished reading it, I was just so happy. I've read all the other books in the Simonverse, so it kind of felt like returning to my friend group, my fictional friend group. And then I just really like the email format. It kind of makes me think about talking to my friends growing up via Facebook Messenger, and when none of us could see each other because we were all in various states over the summer. So it kind of felt like coming home again.
I loved the book. I have read every Becky Albertalli book ever, so it felt like, I feel like I agree with Maya. It's like going back to your old friend group, getting to see a little look in their lives. I love the format, the way it was written in the emails. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I'm also completely new to the Simonverse, and I read this all in one sitting. It was such a quick read, but also you just jumped into their world so deeply. And I screamed at the end. I'm not going to spoil it, but at the last page, I was like, wait, there's not more.
Well, and it's interesting. People keep saying it's a cliffhanger, but all you have to do is watch Love Victor to know what happens. It's not really a cliffhanger because Love Victor came out first, but absolutely. And so a couple of you mentioned the format, and I would love to know what it was like having it be completely in email format, because the original Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda, some of it is in emails, and emails play a huge important part, whether you've read the book or seen the movie. So what was it like having, obviously it was like, you mentioned Maya talking in Facebook Messenger, but was there anything specific that you enjoyed or about it being all emails? And since you mentioned the Facebook Messenger, Maya, is there anything else you have?
Yeah, I just kind of loved reading the subject lines, or times where they'd be side emailing each other when they were in the middle of a group email. That also, happens all the time in real group chats where you're messaging multiple people at the same time. So like I said, I really, really love the whole email thing. Every time in any book when there's an email exchange, I just really love when that comes up.
I feel like it really gave you an insight into their life. It really dropped you in and made you feel like you were part of it. And there are some email lines where it would just drop you in the middle of the conversation, but you just immediately understood what was going on with the characters in the funniest way.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting because through emails, you see how each character is presenting themselves to their friends and how their friends are kind of picking up on, like, maybe there's something under the surface besides what they're actually saying, whether they're being like, everything's great, when it's not. And I thought that was a really interesting way to format the book without, because you can't read anybody's mind. It's how they're talking to others, which was cool.
I agree. I really enjoyed just following like the conversation, almost like trying to figure out the sub meaning below everything of what they were saying. It took me a second when I first started it though, because my brain automatically wanted to just skip past who was actually emailing, and I was like, no, that's very important. Have to read that.
Yeah. Amazing. And one thing I also wanted to ask, because I know we have several different age demographics here. So for the people who've read the other Simon books, they're in high school. And in this, it's college. And I don't think we get that a lot of the times. Either we read books about people that are dealing with issues in high school and maybe applying for college, or we read books about people that are in college, but we don't really ever get to see an instance where we see the whole kind of arcing. So whether it be that you've seen the movie or read the original Simon books, was there anything interesting, or is there anything to be said that you enjoyed about kind of getting to see that transition period with them?
I think it's really accurate to like your first year in college when you're making new friends at college, but you're also still like really connected to your high school friends, and you're trying to figure out how you can be friends with both. Like it kind of feels like a betrayal to be making new friends, but at the same time, you need new friends in this new place. So I think I love like seeing that transition period because it's very true. Like your first semester, you're kind of concerned about like how to navigate being friends with all these people in all these places, because you might have friends all across the country. So yeah, I really like that dynamic.
So I'm currently a rising senior, so I don't necessarily completely understand like the college vibe. So I tend to really stick with books that are in high school, which I think can be very limiting. So I liked the fact that it starts in high school and starts like going into the college years, because I feel like once you've established like that empathetic link with the characters, you can keep that going as they go up in age, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I think that is really like cool about this series, even though I'm not as deep into it. And it does say a lot about the high school to college transition and being like, am I happy here? This is a totally new environment, and taking familiar characters and putting them in that new environment kind of tests them in a way that's really interesting.
Going from high school to college in the books for me really makes me want to go back and read from the beginning and read the entire Simon verse, because there's so many one-off books that I'll read that ends with like a happily ever after at the end of a high school year, but then there's never a book where they're in college and it's like, well, did it work out? What happened next? I enjoy that we have a what happened next with this series.
And one thing I think actually all of you touched on that I think is so cool is if you read books that are just set in college and they're talking about their friends back in high school, it's easy to be like, oh, they can forget about their friends in high school because we don't have an emotional connection to them. But because of this one, we have an emotional connection with these characters already, but we're also growing and having an emotional connection with the characters in college. So it gives us, I think, one of the most authentic experiences with the college transition. So that's something I really enjoyed. Are there any specific, other the college transition and like stuff like that, are there any other specific themes or moments that really kind of stuck out with you in the book that kind of meant a lot?
I think the long distance and the very short distance juxtaposition of the two main relationships in the book was really interesting. And also, like, personally, I've had experiences where we're like my partner and I are long distance and we're sending each other letters or emails, and it's like counting down the days until we see each other. And I thought that was really relatable and wonderful.
I really enjoyed the push to say the word love, because I definitely understand that. I was the first person in my relationship that said love, and then I was just like waiting and being like, are you gonna say it, or are you gonna say it for like 2 months after I said it before I got it back?
I think I really enjoyed the moments where they're coming back to their hometown and all kind of meeting up again, because I can remember experiencing those kind of first meetups after all being away at college. Like my high school group, we all have a Christmas party every single year to like gather and discuss the whole past year. So I love that moment. I love that moment when they're all like emailing about which Waffle House that they're going to meet up at, because they need to specify which one, which is, the most Georgia thing ever. But yeah, I really love that kind of coming home moment where they're all together back home.
As a general Simon Verse fan, I really enjoyed seeing Leah's growth and how she's changed from like Leah on the Offbeat to this book, and how her relationship with Abby is like developing her and causing her to open herself up more in college. I think that's a really beautiful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And yes, well, I mean, I think the Waffle House thing is something that most Georgians get. Only, I mean, a lot of people understand, but Georgia, we have the most Waffle Houses. Well, I'm not in Georgia anymore, but I grew up in Georgia. We have the most Waffle Houses of any state. So I think it's such a Georgian thing. I'm so glad that Becky threw that in there. I want to know, not just specifically about Love Creekwood, but about, queer representation in general, why you think it's so important to have books like this, whether it be in school libraries or in school classrooms or, in bookstores, or available to young people, and why that's so important, and whether it's personally or in general.
Personally, for me, the first time that I ever read a book that had queer representation as the lead characters was Red, White, and Royal Blue. Earlier this year, or it might have been end of last year when I read it. And it was just like such a nice thing to see someone who looked like someone who understands what I went through and understands, coming out and all this as the lead character, rather than me just getting excited like when I was growing up and there'd be like one random queer character in a show and being like, haha, there's representation. It was nice to see the representation as the lead characters. And I wish that I had had access to that when I was going through middle school and high school, or knew about it, because I feel like my time would have been much, much easier.
I think I just really love Becky Albertalli because of how diverse her books were. Because because I've always been a reader my whole life, and I grew up with these very, very white stories, very straight stories, very the same like boarding school stories, and like only within like the last 4 or 5 years has YA really started to diversify itself with queer Black characters. And I just love that representation, because it's not something I would have had in like middle school or high school, which is the reason I will probably be reading YA forever, because it's so much better now than it used to be. And I just think it's really good for, kids who are in middle school and high school now to like get that representation. So much so that I'm recommending books to my boss's daughter, who's in middle school, so she can get more like queer representation in her books.
So I was also a very avid reader growing up, and kind of found like an escape in books a lot. And I never really, growing up at least, found characters like myself in those books. So as more and more queer fiction started to pop up in the young adult genre, I felt like it was like, it made me feel safe enough that I could start having watching characters have these conversations with people in their lives and go through these struggles of being a queer young adult. It made me feel comfortable to come to terms and talk about it in my own life. So I felt comfort in that a lot.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to have these books available to young people, because young people are starving for representation. I know, like, when it was like 2014, 2015, and I was a teenager on Tumblr, I was like reading these very straight YA books and being like, fan fiction about why this character might be queer, and like having a mainstream healthy, normalized narrative, especially one that isn't just about coming out, which I thought, even though like other parts of the Simonverse series include that in the main plot, having this like they're out, they're happy, they're in relationships, but they still have a life that goes on. It's not happily ever after. I think that's really important to have in fiction.
Mm-hmm. And one thing that Maya B mentioned that I want to shout out also is like we have, because just, you know, Becky obviously is a white woman. We now have things like You Should See Me in a Crown and Cinderella is Dead, which are two YA books that have come out in the last like month or two that I haven't stopped thinking about either of them. And they're both about queer Black women by queer Black women. And that I think that it's so exciting that not only are we, because we got to a place where we were getting lots of gay white stories for years and years, which, I mean, as a gay white man, of course I loved reading them, but I think it's just so amazing, and it creates so much empathy for other people and opened my mind to so many things to read those and read things like Felix Ever After, which is about a Black trans teenager. I think it's just so amazing. Anyway, cool. So I want to know, just for fun, who would you want to be best friends with in the Simonverse?
I think Leah and I probably have like the same kind of sarcasm, like sense of humor, and kind of, you know, like slow to open up. I kind of love Leah and just her character development. Someone mentioned that earlier, but also I want to be best friends with all of these people. Like they're such a cool group. Like I remember the like American Girl prom scene that was like epic, and I was like, I would have wanted to be there. That's an epic prom story. But yeah, I think probably Leah. I love her. I love Leah on the Offbeat.
Simon's clown roommate. No, I'm joking. Definitely Leah, just because I'm on that wavelength of complete sarcasm, and I feel like she'd be able to follow that pretty well.
I think Abby, mainly because of the cat dog justification Halloween costume email. I thought that was just like, I totally see myself doing that, and I totally see myself latching onto someone who would do that.
I think I'm gonna have to agree with Molly and Maya B and say Leah. And I also think that a good part of me saying that is because I already have my best friend who reminds me a lot of that character. So reading it, I was like, I already know this person.
I love the Leah love. And then, okay, so who do you relate to most in the Simonverse? And it doesn't have to be just Love Creekwood. If you've seen Love Victor, or you've seen that, you know, it can be anyone. Who do you relate to the most?
I think for me it would be Abby, just because like I am someone who tries to like keep that positive and is overly energetic a lot of the time. That tends to cling to like sarcastic people and want to help people a lot. So I think definitely Abby for me.
I still think it's Leah for me, just because like how she is like in her relationship, I feel like is also me, where like the other person is like the sappy sentimental one and you're not, but you're gonna go with it because you love that person. Yeah, that's probably me in a relationship. So.
As a sappy sentimental one, I think I would probably say Abby once again.
See, this time I'm going to have to say Abby and Leah because I'm the sappy, sentimental one, but I'll also be sassy for you.
Love it. So obviously this group is a hardcore fan of Leah on the Offbeat. And we're all ready to go hard for Leah on the Offbeat. Amazing. So I want to know, Becky has said that this is going to be the last book in the Simonverse. She's been very clear that this will be the end of the Simonverse. Do we think that this was a good ending? Do we think it tied it up nicely? Do we think also that it kind of bridged the gap between the Simonverse and Love Victor, or her books and Love Victor in a nice way, if you've seen the show? What are your thoughts on just it being the end?
Yeah, I think at some point you just have to let your favorite characters go as much as it hurts. I think it has to wrap up at some point. Like, We were talking about just like letting them live their happy lives and just be together. They're not like worried about coming out or all that jazz. Just let them be happy. Like we've seen that they're happy and that they're okay, which I'm cool with.
I feel like it definitely bridged the gap really well between this and seeing Love Victor. I think it was good to see them in that transition from being a kid that's in high school and kind of not only going to college but maturing into that adult life before we see him taking on kind of a mentor role within Love Victor. So it was good to see him grow into that, not just like there to there.
Yeah, I think there is a point where you have to set the characters free to live their lives, but putting them through like the coming out, the last 2 years of high school into the first year of college, and the journey that Love Victor takes is like, it's not enough, but it's a jumping off point for readers and viewers' imaginations, which I think is great.
Having this being the first one that I've read, I'm definitely looking forward to being able to go back and read the books from the beginning, and I might have a different opinion on this being the last book, because just me being who I am as a person, I would love every book to have a Hallmark ending.
And I mean, and Becky has also gone out on her, all of her social medias, and she's basically made it canon that, at least I think she's definitely said it about Simon and Bram, but I think about Leah and Abby as well, that they get married. So we all are we know that they're happy. It's fine. She said it, so it's canon. So we're all happy. We're all good. I want to know, because all of you, in one way or another, I've spoken with and read a lot, or read some, read queer books. What other books have you read recently that have either made you feel similarly to Love Creekwood or different in terms of representation, and that things that you've really loved?
Yeah, so I recently finished You Should See Me in a Crown.
So
When I got that book in the mail and I opened the package, literal tears were in my eyes just based on the cover, let alone having even read the first page. And then I read it, and it's so beautiful. And yeah, I'm gonna be thinking about that, wanting to reread that soon. I also just read this book called Date Me, Bryson Keller.
Oh, it's so good.
So good.
So good. I was like, again, tears throughout, because I was just like, it's just so cute. Like, how do I exist? This is too cute. I can't. I love that book, and everyone should read that. Plus, it's by a South African author, which I haven't read too many of those, and I just love that representation in the genre.
Mm-hmm. And it was also very, the character was also South African, so it was very own voices. Yeah, so it had a lot of, within the book, representation, which I loved.
Yeah.
So I recently finished You Asked for Perfect, which it's very different than the Simon verse, but I have never identified with a book more. Like maybe I shouldn't have read it, considering I'm coming up on college applications and really relate to the stress and the anxiety of being constantly intellectual and perfect, but I really identified with that, and not only felt queer representation, but representation of my personality in general, which was really nice.
I just started Cinderella is Dead. A couple minutes ago, I reached down just so I could plug it visually. And I just it's so wonderful to see a WLW romance in a book, and I love the twist of the fantasy fairy tale story, and oh my gosh, I have barely started it, but it makes me so incredibly excited.
I'm excited because my copy of that book's coming today, so I'm very ready to read it.
I'm waiting for my copy to come out.
Every single book that you guys all just talked about are all so great, so it's so thrilling that there's just so much out there for people, and because all of the books you just mentioned are so vastly different. You Asked for Perfect is about if I remember correctly, a Jewish person, and Cinderella's Dead is about it's fantasy, and You Should See Me in a Crown is a contemporary rock. We just are getting this wide range, and Red, White, and Royal Blue is, you mentioned that earlier, it's probably my favorite book. Just all the
One.
feels forever. So I just think it's so exciting to live in this space that now has this wide net of representation. I want to know if you had to, for Love Creekwood, if you were, to lack of a better word, an elevator pitch. If someone was asking, should I read Love Creekwood? Should I, introduce myself to the Simon verse? In 2 or 3 sentences, what would you say to them?
I would say that the Simon verse is beautifully diverse and a great representation of living in the South, because I feel like we do not get represented well in media. And I would also just say that, gay or straight, it's just a great universe to read about, like that life period of being in the part of high school and then transitioning, and just what it means to be entering your 20s. It's just really relatable. Like, you will find one moment in probably multiple moments in these books where you can identify with this story, whether you're gay or straight.
I say it's a beautiful array of Oreo-loving queer representation. So that would be my elevator speech, and I think that should be enough.
Oreos, come on.
Yeah, it feels like a warm hug. It feels like you have known these people, even if Love Creekwood is your first time in joining the Simon verse. It feels like you've known these people for years, like they're your best friends. And it's just wonderful because everybody's personalities are so distinct and so loving and wonderful.
I definitely completely agree. It's picking up a book that's full of your best friends, people that you've known forever, even though it's your first time reading it with Love Creekwood, and that through reading it, you're just going to learn to know and love these people even more.
Amazing. Well, I really appreciate all of you sitting down to chat with me. The very last question I have is, if you could sum up how this book made you feel in one word, or it can be a word or a sound even. That is fine. What would that be?
Warm, definitely warm.
Aww. An aw.
Is supercalifragilisticexpialidocious copywritten?
Sure, why not? I mean, you can say it.
Emotional. Yeah, very emotional.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation. Again, if you've not purchased your copy of Love Creekwood yet, you can do so with the link below in the description to purchase it from Karis Books and More. And for the book in August, I will be announcing it on Monday, but just as a little hint, this is the vest that I wore to my prom when I went to high school. So that is your one hint. This is part of the suit I wore to prom. And that's all you're gonna get. So let me know in the comments below if you think you know what the book is. And otherwise, I will let everyone know on Monday. And next week, we'll be sitting down with that educator to chat about Love Creekwood for our final interview. And then in August, we'll be chatting about a new book. So until next time, I will talk to y'all soon. Bye.